iniziamo.
Ah, qui c'è
Sì, ha il
timer
counter.
grande.
Non mi ricordo dove. Puoi mettere sotto lì se vuoi.
Poi io qui tu? Speriamo di no.
E il cambio slide c'è il telecomando. Se presentate dalla postazione. Vai, vuoi. Vai, devi schiacciare.
So for the English speaker, some of the presentation will be in Italian. So if you need the translation, you can go and ask for the translation, so the headphones, because some of the presentation will be so basically in Italian. Thanks.
Bene, io inizierei. Ehm, Benvenuti a questa sessione di Airport del capitolo italiano, dedicato insomma in questo spazio di approfondimento appunto delle attività della Room Italia all'interno della conferenza di riferimento. Abbiamo un programma abbastanza serrato con una serie di interventi di varia natura, quindi inizio con le presentazioni del primo relatore rispetto a appunto a un intervento degli ENAC, l'ente regolatore rispetto alle infrastrutture aeroportuali sul territorio nazionale, per cui introduco l'ingegnere eminente che inizierà con la prima presentazione tematica. Grazie.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Claudio Eminente, as was already said. I'm from the Italian Civil Aviation Authority, ANAC, and I'm the Central Director for Economic Planning and Infrastructure, Economic Programming and Infrastructure Development. So, my presentation, first of all, I wish to thank the organization for the invitation to present the situation about the Italian aerodrome and the implementation of the BIM methodology in the airport infrastructure in Italy. And my presentation will start with a short introduction about INAC, the Italian Civil Aviation Authority. Then we'll go through the description on how INAC deals with the project, the infrastructure approvals in Italy. And then I'll go through the new approach of INAC about the approvals and how we provide inputs to the aerodrome operators about the new design and also addressing digitalization and the BIM methodology. Then I will invite Mrs. Maggipinto from the University of Padua for the second part of the INAC presentation concerning a more in-depth insight about the BIM methodology as should be implemented in Italy. So, okay, INAC is the unique authority as far as the regulation, certification, and oversight and control of all the aeronautical activities are concerned in Italy. And it's a public entity, and it's also the official partner of the European Commission and European Aviation Safety Agency as far as the aeronautical activities are concerned. And it's also the has been also appointed as the official authority as far as suborbital commercial transport operation in Italy is concerned. So what's the mission of INAC? The mission of INAC is basically to promote the civil aviation in Italy. How? Addressing the safety and security, of course, and taking care about the passenger rights in a sustainable manner, of course, and taking into account the environmental protection as long as the promoting the green, digital, and resilient activities. So basically, we take care about the three pillars of the aeronautics. That means the man, the machines, and the environment as well. Among all the various activities we are dealing with, I just want to mention the advanced air mobility, that is new challenge for the aeronautics, the suborbital commercial transport operation. That's also is a new topic as far as the aeronautic is concerned. And we also are engaged in environmental protection, and the EASA we are working with third countries, supporting them in their development based on bilateral agreements or through twinning projects with the involvement of the European Commission. So as far as the our organization for the project approval are concerned, that's part of my duties, and we have also dedicated division for this job. This is the situation for the airports in Italy. We have 35 airports that are certified according to the European regulation, commercial airports, and 9 commercial airports that are certified according to the national regulation. So basically we got a sort of derogation from the European Commission based on the limited amount of traffic on those airports. And then we have additionally 51 small airports, mainly devoted to general aviation, including aero taxi. 20 of them are managed directly by INAC. So how we plan we develop the infrastructure. Basically, we started through a master plan definition that is a medium-long-term plan for the development of the infrastructure for each individual airport. And basically, this plan takes into account the amount of traffic on those airports and all the needs that have been are identified for those airports. Then we have a short plan, 4 or 5 years, where it's approved by us the priority among the various infrastructure that should be developed in the medium-long term. Then we have the approval of the individual projects. And at the end, we have, of course, the construction that is up to the aerodrome operator. And we have, at the end, we are reserved from ourselves the control from a technical and administrative standpoint, the compliance with the project that was approved before. Of course, we are basically devoted to approve infrastructure project for the land side and the air side. For the land side, we basically have the terminal area, and we look after the basically the level of service that are offered by the aerodrome operator, and we look after in particular to the dimensions that are part of the design, including the length of the pathway from the security control to the gates and from the check-in to the security controls. And we take into account the seating capacity, the security control organization, the advertisement for the passengers, and in particular the architectural interior design in terms of the quality that's provided and the environmental comfort for the passengers. And of course, we take care about all the national regulations in terms of removal of architectural barriers and other kind of national requirements in terms of fire protection or other kinds of requirements. As far as the airside is concerned, of course, we are responsible to assure compliance with the national, international, European regulation that is basically the EU Regulation 139 issued in 2014. As far as the main characteristics of the airport are concerned, that means the runways, the taxiway, the apron, the visual aids, the signs and markings, and the operational procedures. Some figures in the last year, we have got around 315 projects. We have approved almost around 200 projects. The remaining are under evaluation, and we started in discussion with the aerodrome operators about these projects in order to have them approved. And for a total amount of around 500 million euro. And we would expect for the 2023 much more projects because we have overcome the COVID-19 period, and so we would expect that the activities are rising again. Just to emphasize that the kind of documentation that we got in the dedicated platform we use for the delivery of the project is very high, sometimes because the infrastructure, the project infrastructure is quite complex. We have more than 300 files that should be dealt with, and they have different formats sometimes, so it's very complicated to review all this documentation. This is a short inputs on what we will see afterwards concerning BIM. So we are going towards the Airport 4.0 as the new kind of airports that is basically in between the route from the COVID-19 period and the attention we have to the digitalization, environment sustainability, and the new means of transportation. So we start from what was the experience from the passenger during the COVID-19, where it was reduced or implemented all the possible contactless methodology, starting from the web check-in through the biometric controls and the drop-off of the baggage and all this kind that the methodology that have been implemented by the aerodrome operator, and that was really appreciated by the passenger. So we cannot go back to the previous system. And on the other side, we are going to implement even more the photovoltaic system, the dry hydrogen, the sustainable aviation fuel, and the advanced air mobility, so improving the connection air to air. And of course, the aerodrome operator started with this the implementation of the digitalization system many years ago, starting from the web check-in, going through the Wi-Fi system, the flow management and monitoring, and the collaborative decision-making in many situations. And now we are going towards the BIM. Of course, the BIM is the most complicated issue because it involves also financial and organization effort from the aerodrome operator and a change of mentality in the approach. So basically, this is a pathway that we cannot go back, as I said before, but how can BIM help us? This is the basic question. We have tried to provide some answers, and so the advantages should be the enhance the heritage, so in some way to have a digital archive for all the building in order to increase the value of our infrastructure, going from, for the new, of course, infrastructure, going from the initial design up to the end of life cycle of the infrastructure, to facilitate and enhance the service levels and the effectiveness of the investment. Hopefully, we are going towards a reduction in the time for the project approvals, and also through the monitoring, also the efficiency in the construction, and so reducing the time for the construction as well. Optimizing the infrastructure capacity, because we can address all the situation in a digital way, so we can avoid the duplication of infrastructure and to better optimize the infrastructure themselves. And we could, due to the simulation that we could perform, we would increase the resilience of the system, again, through the simulation of the different scenarios that we could face in the future. So basically, we go through this digitalization based on passenger experience in a new area. That is basically the reduction, that is again the advantages that we would imagine, the project reduction in time for the project approval, for the construction, and also for the management of the infrastructure itself. But this leads to a change in mentality, basically from the aerodrome operator, but also from ourselves. So we are working on this way, because the BIM implementation is not just a presentation of the project in a digitalized way, but we also, they also think about what they want in the future for the airport. So they start to define the objective of this new methodology, and based on this new philosophy and the target they have identified, they should check and identify what is the most suitable initiative that they have to put in place, starting from the identification of the software and the hardware they need. And basically, it's not, as I said, it's not just a matter of a representation of the infrastructure itself, so basically 2 or 3 dimensions, but also to monitor the cost, the time, that is essential characteristic, and also the construction, of course, and as well as the maintenance of the infrastructure. So every step in the construction of the infrastructure, in the design, construction, and maintenance of the infrastructure could be monitored. So basically, what the INAC has done so far in order to facilitate this change, we have already issued a couple of guidelines, basically one to implement or facilitate the implementation of the photovoltaic system. A second one, to address the sustainability and resilience of the aerodrome infrastructure. And we are going to issue two more dedicated guidelines. One related to the digital passenger experience. The second one is related to the introduction and standardization of the BIM methodology in the aerodrome environment. And we are also working on a new guidelines concerning the use of GIS methodology and systems, so in relationship with the BIM. So basically, what we ask the aerodrome operator to do to go towards this new approach, starting from the internal organizational act. So they have to define what they want to do in the future. They have to start with the training of their people, because we need trained personnel to address in the proper way this new approach, and of course to make an economic effort in identify and buy, of course, hardware and software, the adequate hardware and software. This is the index of the guidelines we are going to issue, and basically this is issued to standardize to provide inputs to standardize the aerodrome operator approach. And the second part of this presentation will be put forward by Mrs. Maggipinto, and I wish to give the floor to her. Thank you very much.
Buongiorno. Proseguirò la presentazione per approfondire quanto già anticipato dall'ingegnere eminente. Presenterò il lavoro svolto negli ultimi 2 anni tramite un assegno di ricerca che ha visto la collaborazione tra ENAC e l'Università di Padova per la realizzazione delle linee guida che possano indirizzare i gestori aeroportuali verso una implementazione ottimale del BIM all'interno dei loro processi. Le attività che sono state svolte in questi 2 anni hanno visto da una parte l'analisi dei documenti e degli standard, delle richieste di ENAC e dall'altra parte un approfondimento sullo stato dell'arte del BIM, l'applicazione di questo nell'ambito infrastrutturale. Ovviamente il lavoro finale è stato portato a termine tramite non solo il confronto con ENAC, ma anche il meeting svolti e la collaborazione con vari gestori aeroportuali che si sono dimostrati disponibili nel raggiungere questo obiettivo comune. Le attività svolte sono state seguite dal gruppo LIMLab dell'Università di Padova, che unisce lo studio della geometria e della rappresentazione grafica con questa nuova tecnologia del BIM, andando a sviluppare questa integrazione in vari ambiti, sia in quello edile che infrastrutturale, quindi in questo caso gli aeroporti, andando a definire quelli che sono i processi che portano a uno scambio informativo ottimale fra i vari ambiti disciplinari. Partendo dalla struttura che lega l'ENAC ai vari gestori aeroportuali e questi ultimi agli studi di progettazione e alle imprese di costruzioni, si va a definire quella che è la relazione indicata nelle normative nazionali e internazionali di ambito BIM. Quindi si vede come i gestori vengono associati a quelli che possono essere i committenti e invece gli studi di progettazione le imprese di costruzione come coloro che vengono incaricati in fase di gara. Da questo deriva quindi l'introduzione del ruolo dell'ente dell'aviazione civile come approvazione finale dei progetti e degli interventi dei sedimi aeroportuali. Rispetto a quanto invece richiesto esplicitamente dalle normative internazionali e nazionali di ambito BIM, si va a identificare il committente come colui che va a definire le richieste informative e le imprese di costruzione e i progettisti come coloro che invece vanno a sviluppare il modello seguendo nel dettaglio le richieste dei gestori aeroportuali. Alla fine il modello prodotto viene quindi restituito ai gestori aeroportuali e questo arriverebbe poi all'ente per l'approvazione finale. In queste dinamiche l'ENAC ha deciso di sviluppare, appunto in collaborazione con l'Università di Padova, delle linee guida in modo da unificare il più possibile l'approccio BIM dei gestori aeroportuali e quindi rendere omogeneo, anche grazie allo standard OpenBIM, lo sviluppo dei modelli informativi. Le linee guida verranno pubblicate a breve e di seguito andremo a sviluppare i temi che compongono il documento. C'è un approfondimento sulla modellazione che è strettamente di ambito aeroportuale, delle indicazioni sulla introduzione del BIM per la gestione dell'intera infrastruttura aeroportuale, una parte dedicata invece alla definizione dei requisiti informativi che andrebbero poi inseriti nel capitolato informativo a base di gara, degli scenari che mostrano delle situazioni in cui il gestore può trovarsi nell'implementazione del BIM anche in base, cioè trasversalmente anche ad altri ambiti, ad altre discipline, e delle appendici tecniche che miratamente poi vanno a individuare mappatura dei parametri, delle classi e nomenclatura adatta. Partendo appunto dal primo tema ci si sofferma su quello che caratterizza la modellazione informativa dell'infrastruttura aeroportuale, quindi si sottolinea la particolarità di una scala molto ampia come quella dell'aeroporto, che però può anche essere sviluppata localmente in singoli ambiti. Il riferimento particolare che si ha sia alla normativa nazionale che agli standard internazionali e poi questa unione sia del dominio edile per tutti gli edifici che si trovano sul sedime aeroportuale che del dominio infrastrutturale per la parte operativa delle piste. Oltre a toccare ovviamente anche delle aree specifiche, delle discipline particolari dell'ambito dell'infrastruttura aeroportuale come lo smistamento bagagli, l'illuminazione delle piste e la segnaletica orizzontale. Tutto questo va a sviluppare ovviamente diversi modelli ed è necessario quindi poter organizzare le informazioni nel modo più organico possibile, proprio per avere poi una federazione che possa permettere di gestire senza problemi la mole di lavoro. Nell'implementazione del BIM per la gestione dell'intera infrastruttura aeroportuale ovviamente si parte da come organizzare queste informazioni all'interno dei modelli e per farlo è necessario innanzitutto suddividere tutta l'infrastruttura in unità organiche fino ad arrivare all'unità minima in cui individuare, leggere e valutare le informazioni dei modelli e secondo in questo caso la gerarchia, la struttura gerarchica, la struttura spaziale proposta dallo standard IFC. In questo caso si è cercato di adattare quella che è la struttura già proposta per l'ambito stradale, quindi il dominio di IFC Road, all'ambito delle piste aeroportuali. La stessa proposta viene fatta anche nell'ambito del terminal passeggeri, dove comunque si associa l'unità minima di IFC Space ad ogni minimo ambito del terminal. Ovviamente la struttura gerarchica spaziale dello IFC risulta rigida e non sempre adatta a rispondere alle necessità che si possono ritrovare nella gestione dell'infrastruttura intera, come per esempio nell'ambito del terminale aeroportuale. Le unità minime possono essere poi raccolte in ulteriori ambiti spaziali che vanno a rispondere a delle necessità funzionali. Quindi da una parte ad esempio si cerca di adattare la struttura gerarchica così come viene proposta dallo standard IFC, dall'altra rispondendo per esempio alle necessità e agli ambiti descritti dal manuale IATA, si va a individuare con la classe di IFC Zone un ulteriore modo per raggruppare gli ambiti minimi del terminal passeggeri. Importante per un'implementazione fin dai primi momenti dell'adozione del BIM è anche la definizione degli usi dei modelli che il gestore aeroportuale intende fare appunto dei modelli informativi, e quindi si propone all'interno delle linee guida anche un esempio di come individuare le classi e le proprietà da associare ad ogni elemento che può essere presente all'interno del modello informativo, individuando tutte queste caratteristiche tramite gli usi del modello definiti in partenza, divisi per gli stadi, quindi quello di progettazione, quello di costruzione, fino allo stadio operativo di gestione delle manutenzioni. Non manca anche un riferimento alla norma che va a definire le modalità con cui organizzare non solo il personale coinvolto dalla gestione dei modelli BIM e dalla produzione degli stessi, ma anche un'adeguata acquisizione hardware e software per rispondere alle necessità che si presentano nell'approccio BIM, così come una revisione dei processi che sicuramente vanno ad essere modificati con questo nuovo flusso di lavoro sui modelli informativi. Il capitolo invece dedicato alla definizione dei requisiti informativi fa direttamente riferimento alla 11376 che esplicita le modalità con cui sviluppare il capitolato informativo. Vengono quindi forniti degli esempi molto pratici e diretti sia per la parte tecnica della norma che per la parte gestionale. Ovviamente si fa riferimento alla normativa italiana che comunque va ad integrare, ad essere aggiornata con la normativa internazionale, quindi la ISO 19650. La parte degli scenari, come anticipato prima, invece presenta delle situazioni tipiche che possono presentarsi all'interno della gestione dell'infrastruttura. Vengono presentati tramite diagrammi BPMN, quindi gli scambi di documenti e le attività che possono essere svolte dai vari attori che intervengono in questi scenari. Vengono riportati degli esempi come per esempio il rilievo digitale della infrastruttura esistente, oppure le dinamiche che afferiscono al controllo del progetto, o l'integrazione tra il BIM e il facility management. Ogni attività e documento presentati all'interno del BPMN poi vengono sviluppati anche testualmente e maggiormente approfonditi nelle tabelle. Grazie.
procediamo con la prossima presentazione, che riguarda nello specifico le attività del gruppo di lavoro Italia, gruppo di lavoro in partenza appunto rispetto a quelli che sono i nostri programmi, le attività previste per il tema Airport. Gruppo di lavoro Italia, all'interno di questa presentazione vedremo un piano generale, una presentazione generale di quelli che sono i nostri obiettivi e quelle che sono le attività che andremo a proporre e svolgere nello sviluppo appunto di questo progetto, che vede la collaborazione già attualmente di diversi soggetti coinvolti di diversa natura, che collaboreranno all'interno del programma per aiutare ad aggiungere risultati a quello che è il capitolo OpenBIM riferibile al sistema Airport, quindi alla Room Airport e comunque al sistema aeroportuale nazionale, sulla scorta dei contenuti che sono appena stati condivisi dalla presentazione precedente. Andremo a presentare queste attività secondo una brevissima agenda dove vedremo l'introduzione a quelli che sono i nostri obiettivi e le attività del gruppo, quelli che sono gli obiettivi del gruppo di lavoro Italia e come partecipare rispetto a questo processo che ci vede coinvolto nel brevissimo. I nostri strumenti, quelli che sono gli strumenti base per affrontare l'oggetto Airport o l'oggetto infrastruttura che sia, definibile in molti approcci, in molte maniere. L'obiettivo non è in questo momento l'ingresso tecnico all'interno delle definizioni, ma chiaramente l'idea che ci spinge ad affrontare un percorso riferibile all'OpenBIM all'interno del gruppo di lavoro. Quindi quelli che sono gli strumenti che conosciamo, siamo qui a condividere esperienze rispetto all'approccio OpenBIM e con il traguardo e l'obiettivo di veicolare l'informazione che sia progettuale o di gestione riferibile all'infrastruttura stessa all'interno di un processo aperto, collaborativo ed accessibile a quelli che sono i diversi stakeholder coinvolti nel processo di digitalizzazione, che sia progettuale o di gestione dell'opera stessa, fondamentalmente per tutto il ciclo di vita dell'infrastruttura. Quali sono le attività che prevediamo? Chiaramente approcciare al tema Airport, all'infrastruttura Airport, che è un contenitore di molte infrastrutture differenti, di oggetti definibili e definiti dallo standard bSI o in corso di definizione. Appunto le attività saranno quelle di un approccio all'industria aeroportuale definita come sistema di trasporto, come infrastruttura lineare o come appunto contenitore di diverse attività o elementi infrastrutturali. Chiaramente l'obiettivo una delle attività principali è quella della definizione di una definizione appunto riferibile all'asset management e una fluidificazione delle informazioni rispetto alle attività di digitalizzazione dell'infrastruttura, traguardando gestione, trasformazioni delle infrastrutture, trasformazioni sostenibili delle infrastrutture già dal concetto di digitalizzazione che traguarda le attività e questo in un'ottica di gestione sostenibile dell'infrastruttura stessa che va dalla gestione costi fino a tutte quelle che sono le attività che coinvolgono l'infrastruttura stessa e che la trasformano nel suo periodo di vita. Chiaramente l'obiettivo è ridurre le interferenze, ridurre le criticità all'interno di un processo che prevede una trasformazione costante. L'aeroporto, così come altre infrastrutture note, è un veicolo di continuo cambiamento, che sia nel suo assetto specifico, geometrico, che nelle sue funzioni, piuttosto che nel suo perimetro. L'obiettivo chiaramente del gruppo di lavoro Italia, sulla scorta delle esperienze della RUM internazionale, è quello di riportare una serie di conoscenze e di applicarle a quello che è il contesto italiano, per poter implementare appunto un flusso funzionale, utile alla gestione di questo tipo di infrastrutture, caratterizzate appunto da un elevato numero di elementi particolari o di elementi comuni ad altri ambiti. L'obiettivo chiaramente è definire al meglio quelli che sono oggetti e obiettivi specifici del settore di riferimento, fino a traguardare gli aspetti comunitari con altri ambiti che siano di infrastruttura stessa. I risultati attesi chiaramente sulla scorta delle esperienze internazionali, per cui avremo modo di approfondire nella fase successiva quello che è lo stato dell'arte, è quello di approcciare un data dictionary piuttosto che l'implementazione appunto della gestione BIM in approccio alle piattaforme GIS. Per sua natura stessa la struttura aeroportuale è un elemento estremamente esteso, che prevede la necessità e ci restituisce l'opportunità di approcciare queste tematiche in maniera condivisa, e questo è anche una fase di opportunità rispetto a questa specifica menzione. A che punto siamo? In Italia, chiaramente, rispetto al gruppo di lavoro italiano. Stiamo iniziando le attività, il gruppo di lavoro, vedremo poi nelle slide successive con l'intervento che condivido in questo momento con Rachele Bernardello, che con me coordina le attività del gruppo, quali sono le fasi e le scadenze che ci siamo dati per arrivare ad un risultato sul territorio nazionale, in accordo con quelle che sono le indicazioni dei gestori e dell'ente autorità rispetto al settore aeroportuali. Quindi gli obiettivi: l'utilizzo degli FC per le operazioni, l'approccio al CDE nella gestione aeroportuale dell'infrastruttura stessa, e chiaramente, come dicevo poco fa, l'approccio e la coesistenza di due sistemi differenti ma molto molto vicini in termini di ambito, quindi il BIM e il GIS. Dove siamo? Dove siamo all'interno del contesto buildingSMART, quindi nella costruzione delle room, di quelli che sono gli ambiti e le stanze, tra virgolette, di ricerca specifica in termini di digitalizzazione. Siamo una room specifica dedicata appunto al settore aeroportuale, che prevede una fortissima coesistenza di elementi appartenenti ad altri ambiti, ad altri gruppi. Questo ci permette di ereditare fasi e approcci già definiti rispetto a quello che è il rail piuttosto che il roads, e contestualmente ci obbliga, tra virgolette, a sviluppare tutta una serie di oggetti specifici riferibili all'ambito di airport. Quindi quelli che sono i sistemi carburante piuttosto che i sistemi di handling, o qualsiasi di quelli che sono gli oggetti riferibili all'ambito specifico, ad oggi non definiti in altre room o in corso di definizione nelle room internazionali. E il nostro obiettivo è quelli che sono diciamo l'oggetto Airport e il progetto Airport dove traguarda. Su questo nello specifico invito Rachele a condividere.
Grazie Davide. Allora sì, l'obiettivo quindi è quello di inserirsi in quelle che sono già le attività del panorama internazionale, andando ad identificare tutta una serie di attività e di microattività su degli obiettivi specifici e degli oggetti specifici che fanno parte del gruppo di lavoro e che fanno parte del dominio aeroportuale. Come a momento di inizio attività ci siamo dati aprile 2023, quindi questa presentazione, questo intervento fa anche parte di una serie di attività che stiamo portando avanti per coinvolgere tutti i portatori di interesse e società di ingegneria e gestori aeroportuali a partecipare al gruppo di lavoro ed inserirsi anche su tutte quelle che sono le attività che abbiamo visto nella presentazione precedente. ENAC promuove e spinge in primis i gestori aeroportuali ad allinearsi con quelle che sono le richieste e quelle che sono le pratiche sia a livello internazionale ma anche legate alla legislazione italiana e appunto a quelle che sono le nostre direttive. Chi può partecipare, chi invitiamo a partecipare? Sulla scorta di gruppi di lavoro dell'ambito principalmente infrastrutturale che sono stati completati, l'obiettivo è quello di avere un gruppo eterogeneo di partecipanti che fanno riferimento ai diversi ambiti e le diverse figure, gli attori che intervengono nei progetti e nella costruzione appunto e nella gestione degli aeroporti. Per cui sicuramente quelle che sono società di architettura e ingegneria che si occupano di progettazione aeroportuale, i gestori, altri portatori di interesse, ma anche le aziende che si occupano di verifica dei progetti. Per ora vedete sulla vostra destra quelli che sono già persone coinvolte all'interno del gruppo di lavoro, quindi hanno manifestato il loro interesse sia SEA che ADR, SEA anche in quanto promotore dell'avvio di questo gruppo di lavoro. Come già detto prima, a coordinare il gruppo saremo io e Davide Tommasi e ENAC ovviamente si fa portatore di interesse di questo gruppo di lavoro e al fine che le attività che vengono svolte siano in continuità con quelle che sono le loro linee guida, ma anche le attività che hanno intenzione di portare nei prossimi anni. Qual è l'effort, qual è lo sforzo che richiediamo ai partecipanti? L'obiettivo è quello di avere dei risultati in un tempo relativamente breve, quindi all'incirca 6 mesi. Abbiamo in previsione di avere un meeting online ogni 2 settimane, quindi di circa 1 ora e mezza, ma oltre a questo ovviamente si richiede delle attività che richiedono ovviamente microattività che portino a dei risultati concreti. L'obiettivo infatti è quello, a meno di una iniziale discussione tra i partecipanti su quelli che sono i temi generali, andare ad individuare degli obiettivi specifici e delle microattività specifiche al fine sempre di arrivare a dei risultati concreti e che non si tratti solamente di una mera discussione, di un mero tavolo di lavoro in cui si parla dei temi generali legati al BIM e in particolare all'OpenBIM. Per partecipare al gruppo di lavoro potete contattare IBIMI ovviamente in termini di iscrivervi al gruppo di lavoro e quindi poi di poter far parte di questo gruppo e portare avanti appunto quelle che sono anche interessi personali di ogni partecipante. Grazie.
Ok, procediamo con il prossimo intervento che vede Ariska Drug, un intervento riferibile all'attività della Room internazionale. Prego.
Thank you. Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for having me. I was asked to present both the airport room as well as what we do at Schiphol Airport. My name is Ariska Drug. I work as a data engineer for the airport in Amsterdam. And as I can see, I'm starting with a little explanation of the airport room, although I think you guys just explained a little bit as well, except in Italian. I'll be doing it in English. My role in the airport room, I am since January this year the co-chair of the airport room steering committee, And I've been part of a working group working on the airport entities project for a couple of years now. I joined buildingSMART in 2017. Few live summits, and then, of course, because of COVID, a lot of online summits. But in that time of COVID, we actually made a lot of progress on the entities project. So I'll give you guys a little bit of an update on that. There we go. So the working group consists of a small group of people for now. Like I said, my name is Ariska. I work together with my colleague Maya, who unfortunately can't join this session today. She was supposed to be here with me, but got asked to join another session. We're both representing Schiphol Airport. We have two people from NACO, Royal Haskoning, a specialist in the aviation industry. Carl Fitzpatrick from Auckland Airport, and Christoph Eichler, who is also somewhere here today, from Vienna Airport. Great working group. We've been meeting once a week for a couple of years now, working on the Airport Entities Project. So why do we work on the Airport Entities Project? Why is IFC and standardization so important within the aviation industry? I'm just going to put them all on there real quick. I think to start off, airports are changing. The environment is changing. We have limited resources. We're very focused now on sustainability, working more efficient, and so not only financially, but also the human resources. So we have to rethink our construction of how we are building within the aviation industry. At the same time, we have to look at what we have, where we're going, and how we're going to be doing that by a means of building blocks. So we need OpenBIM. We need to collaborate with buildingSMART International and other organizations focusing on open standards in order to optimize the whole life cycle, so the engineering, design, and construction industry. We have to collaborate with the whole chain when looking at asset management or information management. So we are looking at the whole asset life cycle and the requirements that are needed. And one of the requirements that are needed is a common language. We need to be speaking the same language when talking about airports, when building, when designing, so that there's no questions asked when we go from a design phase to, for example, an operational phase or a construction phase. By doing so, OpenBIM will actually enables us to optimize project handover. I don't know about you guys at airports, but project handover at Schiphol Airport is still quite a challenge. And we totally believe that OpenBIM will actually help optimize that process. And at the same time, again, we need to be looking at the standards that are already there and use them for creating that common language. So what characterizes airports? I think most of you know this, but it's a multimodal transport hub. We have a lot of things coming together. I think it was just mentioned as well. We have infrastructure, we have buildings, we have roads, we have everything. Airports are basically tiny little cities that have a little bit of everything coming together. We're mostly owned and operated by one client. We are a strongly organized industry, so we have owners, we have government, we have users, there's a lot of people involved, and it's a capital investment. And at the same time, we have multi-disciplines, a lot of stakeholders in the whole asset lifecycle management, making it very complex. And at the same time, it's an international industry. And last but not least, we are open 24/7, every single day. And the passenger experience continues to be our main focus working at an airport. And the construction will be going on at the same time. So we have to make sure that the passengers are not interrupted by all of the work that is being done at airports. So again, airports, open standards, and asset lifecycle management. I think from the airport room we kind of started with a very focused on IFC and on very much the technical part. And after a couple of years we kind of took a step back and we're like, okay, what is it that we want to achieve? And of course we want one language. We want IFC, we want OpenBIM. However, in order to explain it to everyone involved, we are looking at it a little bit more as in asset lifecycle management. How can we optimize asset lifecycle management? And I'm just going to be putting them all on there real quick because I'm not going to go through all of them. But to start out, we need information needs that are clearly defined and covered throughout the entire asset lifecycle. We need to standardize the processes to optimize it. We want asset owners to have access to the data in a timely manner and not when the project is being delivered at the end. If they need to see something during the design phase, they need to have access to it very quickly. And the information needs to be transparent and accessible so that we can collaborate more throughout the entire asset lifecycle. There's a few more. We're also focusing on disconnecting from the systems. Systems are very important, but we need to start working object-oriented so that we're not dependent on the systems, but very much focused on object-oriented exchange throughout the life cycle. So from the airport perspective, again, like I mentioned, sustainability is a big thing right now. Safety, compliancy, all very important parts of airports in general. So from the airport room perspective, we really want to be focusing on digitalizing the aviation industry by the use of open standards, really focusing on asset lifecycle management, and see what we can use and work together in order to get all of those parties that are part of the life cycle to work more efficiently. So there's already a lot out there that we've used so far. There is a lot of information in the aviation industry. We have the current schema that is being used. There's developments on the buildingSMART data dictionary. We have already created an airport domain in the buildingSMART data dictionary. It was just a pilot, but we did manage to create it and add a few entities to it. And at the same time, we are looking at dictionaries that already exist, for example, from IATA, ICAO, and ACI. So those are also some next steps that we have to look into in order to bring everything together and start looking at it from a bigger perspective. So the airport room, what is our mission? I think it's pretty clear by everything that's being said already, but it is to develop and deploy open digital standards for the airport environment, meaning everyone involved working in the airport environment, not just the asset, or not just the client, but also the design parties, the construction parties, anyone working for or with airports. The unification of digital airport standards will enable more efficient work, working from the common supply chain, and really create that uniform approach within the industry. So we created from the airport room a value proposition to kind of, whenever we get into much technical details, take a step back and remind ourselves what is our value proposition and what do we need to get there. So we came up with enabling airports to capitalize on the digitalization of the built environments to enhance the management of asset. And again, throughout that entire asset lifecycle. I think I'm repeating myself a couple of times, but asset management, lifecycle management. So what are some challenges and opportunities? Some of the challenges today is that the existing classification system and the native model categories do not provide the necessary level of definition to describe our built environment in a machine-readable format. This eventually results in a non-standardized classifications to fill the gaps. So suppliers often have to use different classifications dependent on the client or the company-specific standards or one of their collaborators. And then it also results in a significant amount of non-productive time being spent on normalizing the data and agreeing on standards. And if we get to that, we have to start working towards fully utilizing the capabilities of digital systems and automated workflows. So what we are trying to do is to sufficiently define airport assets within the IFC schema and provide a classification system that airport owners can have confidence in using and specifying as a contractual data delivery standard for effective use within the airport data environment throughout the entire asset lifecycle. So the Airport Entities Project, I think it was just mentioned to you guys in Italian, but I'll repeat it in English. So there are no clear and consistent schema for airport-specific objects. So it's a lot of time-consuming, or it's very time-consuming for people to interpret the data when they get a new BIM model. So what we are trying to do with the Airport Entities Project is identify those specific airport-specific objects and create clear agreements within the airport community to allow for airports to work with just the necessary parts of the schema. So why did we start this? To ensure that data can be consistently understood and used to improve the management of airports. And again, the importance is in all of the stakeholders involved. So if we want to increase the accuracy and the reliability of the data going throughout the entire asset lifecycle, we need to collaborate more and make it clear why we are asking what we're asking and build a shared understanding across airports all over the world. And not only that, if we look ahead, we're very focused now on identifying those airport entities, but we're also looking at potential projects for in the future for buildingSMART. There's a lot of focus right now on sustainability. There's a lot of focus on facility management, fire safety, and I think there's a few more. So I think we need to start with the base and then work from there on other topics. Again, we already have some airport-specific objects seen in the previous slides, but to give you an idea, those are some of the airport-specific objects that we are currently working on identifying and mapping them to IFC. Why we're doing that, this is just an example of why it's kind of difficult today. We all have our own language, so to speak, of what we call, for example, a baggage conveyor. And when we exchange that throughout the asset life cycle, it's not very clear what we mean with the baggage conveyor. So what we want is clear agreements on the use of a baggage conveyor. So the baggage conveyor is mapped to IFC conveyor segment, and that is being used by all parties involved when working in a BIM model. So what have we done so far? We created a list of entities, airport-specific entities, mapped them to IFC, potentially also to user-defined or predefined types, and we created surveys because the working group is very small, and it's not up to 4 parties deciding what it should be. So we created surveys asking if people agree with the naming, the mapping, and if they don't agree, what they would propose. We finished the baggage handling system. We got, I think, around 58 responses from all over the world, from airports, but also design parties, some Van der Lande, for example, one of the specialists in baggage handling, and they provided a lot of good feedback. So we're processing that right now, and at the same time, we just created the other surveys, the airport-specific security systems, Navate and meteorological equipment, civil and airfields, and the terminal. We went live. You can find the survey on the buildingSMART international website if you go to the airport room, and it will probably be published on LinkedIn as well. And the deadline for that is August 31st. So if you have any knowledge on airports, please feel free to fill out the surveys because your input is very important for us to come to a final list that we want to publish on the buildingSMART Data Dictionary. So what is next? Like I said, we're processing the baggage handling survey results right now, and we're receiving, hopefully we'll be receiving feedback pretty soon from the other surveys. A next step that we want to do is also add definitions and images and translations, classifications, and also properties to the mappings that we have done so far. At the same time, we have to further research the use of the buildingSMART Data Dictionary in IFC. I think it's happening as we speak. There's a lot of sessions this week on the buildingSMART Data Dictionary, and we're very curious to see what comes out of it so that we can use it for our project. Last but not least, we also want to finalize the entities and actually add them to the airport domain and publish it on the buildingSMART Data Dictionary so that we actually will start using it and that we can show the world why it's important to be using the airport domain so that we'll all be speaking the same language, so to speak. At the same time, in Montreal, at the summit in Montreal, we came to the conclusion that there's a lot of entities that are common with some of the other rooms. And so we spoke to the railway room and we decided to start working together, identify those overlapping or those common entities, and work on it together, kind of see how we can collaborate and come to a final list that we all agree on. We want the same for the building room, the infrastructure room, because airports have all of it. So it's very important to get together. We have a workshop this afternoon. Feel free to join. More the merrier. But I think this is a huge step in the future of buildingSMART and the data dictionary. So looking ahead of the airport room perspective, we are looking on further developing information standardization. We want to position the buildingSMART airport room within the aviation industry. As you could see, we're still a very small group. The steering committee has a little bit more people, but we want more airports to get involved and more airports to understand the importance of standardizing. At the same time, like I said, we want to connect and collaborate with other rooms. This afternoon is a first step in that direction, but we need to talk to the infra room. We need to talk to the product room, building room, technical room. We need to collaborate within the buildingSMART organization in order to come to a consensus on the use of OpenBIM. And that was my part on the buildingSMART airport room. I think it goes to the...
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Torniamo ad un'esperienza italiana, per cui Mauro Cattaneo di SEA ci rappresenta l'esperienza del gestore in questione nel settore airport.
Okay. Good morning everyone. It's a pleasure for me, an honor for my company to be here and have an opportunity to talk about our experience and about our strategy in order to indicate the best strategy for BIM implementation for our asset. I am Mauro Cattaneo, I'm BIM manager of a company involved in the operate of the two of the main airports located on the north of Italy, Milano Linate and Milano Malpensa. And together today, I'm going to tell you about our experience and how much we believe in the OpenBIM format file and the research of standard information. Let me introduce our company with a couple of slides. And so as an airport operator, we are involved for aviation activity, in particular for the management, development, and maintenance for the airport infrastructure and facility, airport security service, and aircraft ground operations. We also conduct non-aviation activity for retail and food assignment and rental cargo services. And here, our two airports, you can see the two layout. And I report few data for describe them. Malpensa Airport handles international Schengen, non-Schengen flight. It's the second largest international airport in Italy and one of the major 3 airports operating in Milano area. Linate Airport is smaller. It's considered like a city airport because it's very close to the city center of Milano. It's built in 1930 and constantly rebuilt and updated. It's for short-haul national and European flights. Apart from the number that you can see here and the number of the dimension of our two airports, I want to underline the complexity to manage this huge amount of building infrastructure. And so this is one of the most important things when we have to talk about airport. The airport is articulated vital system in which various actors operate together and sometimes in the same time. And so we come to the principal question of my presentation. There is a possibility through the BIM methodology to contain this complexity. Now I'm going to talk about our approach and how we decide to solve this complexity with the BIM approach. Well, our purpose of the BIM implementation, we start with the complexity. And although the last few years have been difficult for the entire line industry due to the health emergency and the cost increase that you know today, the cost problem that could be for our author, we have continued to invest in projects aimed at innovating and redeveloping terminal to increase the safety and efficiency levels of our airport. BIM implementation works in this direction. We want to achieve an important goal, centralize information through the creation of standardized database in order to operate through data analysis. but what kind of data analysis we need to operate for our asset. I'll summarize here: descriptive, prescriptive, predictive, and automate analysis for us. But probably is not enough. It's not enough to make a wonderful database of different property. And in this summit, we talk a lot how to make an important database for our management. But probably it's not enough. There are also 3 different attitudes in our company to explain our approach. The first is the growth mindset for the interior company. Adopt a resilient and flexible or creative thought and behavior model. And mentally devote to grow, open to change and continuous learning. Another very important, also for the BIM implementation, research and development, a set of activity aimed to increasing knowledge, to create new solution and application. And the third, the system integration. You know how it's important to make the strategy in order to implement the singular IT solution, and so the creation of centralized architecture of system, software, and hardware. So, briefly, our roadmap of implementation. We start from a training and learning session in order to enhance the internal knowledge and skill of my colleague and in the interior company. Then we publish our BIM guideline, where the strategy and operating procedures for creating, verifying, and validating model are summarized. These BIM guides are very important for our architect and engineer involved in our project. We conclude several pilot projects to see if those strategies and standards could be improved, and now we are working to integrate the system and solution using the company to be compliant with BIM database and model. We plan to develop this application by contributing the data set that comes from the service in order to make our digital twin. As a client, we provide our BIM guideline to the company involved in the different phase of design, construction. If they weren't there, the big line would be very difficult to receive a correct model and database inside of our model. Because sometimes can happen that a provider can give us a model not very useful for our asset. And sometimes happen this, like a box of Lego bricks where each element contains some information such as color, could be a color or a shape or a scope, but without any organization. We need to organize our data, we need to organize with the stakeholder inside of our company in order to investigate which is the best strategy to write down the properties in order to implement the BIM guide and give the information to our project and engineer. This is the aim also of the group, to have an open discussion among entities involved in the database and highlight critical issues and find common solution to find this, a regular organization of the data set. We believe that, just to say at the beginning, that the strategy could be only using OpenBIM. Why? I summarize this concept inside of this slide for this reason, for interoperability, collaboration, open format file, flexibility, reliable sustainability. And this is the reason why we decided to move along the OpenBIM format file. How to conduct OpenBIM strategy for an airport? Everything starts from the contract. For us, it's important to start from the contract phase, writing clear agreement, not focus only on specific market product, but guaranteed freedom to choose the best software for a particular activity. Clear data set organization with specific property set. We decide to move along the strategy of the property of buildingSMART, but we add a property set in order to investigate the use, the particular use that they want to do with the property of our model. And the third, with the IT department, guide the development of the platform in use with the IFC language and value evolutionary software solution with iterative and incremental model. Organize information means also to define a model structure. We have just talked about this importance of the spatial structure of a BIM model. So what is the content, for example, of IFC project or IFC site or IFC building for an airport? We have some suggestions, but it's appropriate to share them so we can unify digital airport standard and be more efficient for the whole process. Now, I want to present briefly and share some of our experience. This is an image taken from point cloud of the site for a new hangar located in Linate, in the airport, for the private aviation of Milano Linate. We are working with the construction company, asking this build model in progress. This is the construction site, and we are studying how best to use point cloud obtained from the survey. This is very important for us. This is the image of the model of the hangar and with the different disciplines involved for the project. And I want to analyze the property inside of the model, where we have request-specific parameters and geometric definition in accordance with our guidelines. And so the provider, the construction company, deliver for us the model and the property in accordance to our guidelines. This is another case that involves not a new building, but we are to modify and to amplify the airport terminal in Linate. I want to underline with this slide how the BIM approach can start from this dimension up to the detail, and so to govern not only the particular 3D object located in a building, but also the urban situation of our airport, up to detail, and so the possibility to go down the information in according to a particular detail of some element. And this is a plan of the new building located in Linate Airport. But when we talk about BIM for airport, there are not only buildings, there are also infrastructure, and we are working in order to manage the components that are coming from airfield with an approach different respect building elements. And this means to study and work about new field of research, because there are other entities that there are not so many knowledge about how to implement this kind of element and how to manage through the software, how to draw this kind of element. And this means to study or work about new field of research. In conclusion, there is a lot to do to develop and deploy open digital standard for the airport environment. A lot of IFC entities, as just say, are missing, and so we are working together in order to investigate the appropriate properties for element. SEA believe in this project and want to contribute with the internal Italian chapter, and in particular with the new working group of the Italian airport and the operators such as ENAC. Thank you.
Ok, siamo addirittura d'arrivo. Mi preme chiaramente ringraziare buildingSMART e buildingSMART Italia per l'organizzazione e lo spazio in questa room nello specifico. Ringrazio ENAC per essere intervenuto e per l'intervento specifico sulle linee guida. Un ringraziamento anche ad Arisca. Thank you so much for your presentation. See you in international room. Restiamo chiaramente disponibili a tutti gli interessati nel capitolo Italia per eventuali adesioni per le attività in partenza di cui abbiamo brevemente parlato. E in ultimo grazie anche e soprattutto a Rachele per la presenza costante nella nostra attività. Un saluto.